right, now that you have your image drawn out in your 4" by 4" square, you're going to cut it out and transfer it onto the metal. So everyone should have scissors on their table. If not, you can borrow a pair. Pretty straightforward. Cutting doesn't have to be perfect. This will just allow you to center your piece on the metal. So I've got my piece of copper here. Doesn't matter which side you use, it's all going to flatten out anyway. So I'm going to center my image. I'm going to use just a couple small pieces of tape, wrap them around the ends, like that, so that it stays in place. Now I'm going to transfer this image that I have right onto the metal. I'm going to do that with just your regular ordinary pencil. Try and get a solid pencil. Mechanical pencils tend to break while you're doing this. You can either work on top of a stack of papers, or like I have here, and there's some foam sheets in the classroom you can use. So you'll put that underneath, put your copper on top, and then what you're going to do is you're going to press over top of all of the lines in your image. And you're going to have to press down pretty hard to do this, because you want all the lines to show through on the back. And that's how you know that you are pressing hard enough. So I'm going to continue on with this, following all of my lines, trying to keep them nice and even, and then I will show you what the next step is. Once you have all your images, your lines on your image traced, you can take off your piece of paper. You'll notice that some of your lines might be deeper than others, so what you're going to do before you start popping out any of your image is you are going to go over your lines once again, just with a pencil straight on the metal. Don't worry if you get a little bit of lead here and there. It will just wipe off super easy afterwards. You want your pencil to be fairly sharp while you're doing this so that you can get nice, solid lines without them being too wide. So now that we have our lines all clearly defined, oops, let me get that back in the shot. We are going to choose what areas we want to be raised and what areas we want to be lowered. So for this image, I'm going to be raising the logo in the middle and probably this little ring around the outside. I think everything else I want to be flat in the background. So for the parts that I want to be raised, I'm going to flip the metal over, and this part is going to be done on the soft sheet as well. You're going to take a tool, so it could be one of these wooden tools, flat on one end, pointed on the other. If you've got really small details, you can use one of these embossing tools with the rounded ends, or you could even just use a popsicle stick to get in any little small areas that you need to. So I flipped it over and you can see the lines are pretty clear. I'm going to start filling in the area that I want to raise. So I'm pressing down. I'm going close to my lines, but I'm not going over them. If you have any little spots, use a pointier end to get into the little corners. And go around pressing them in. If you press too hard or with a really small item in a large space, you'll end up with weird kind of scratch marks. But if you press with a nice flat tool or the biggest tool you can use for the space that you're in, it will come out smooth. So you may want texture on yours, you may want it to just look smooth. So the problem with pushing out all this metal, so we're slowly stretching it, is when we turn over to the other side, we're going to notice that, yes, the metal that we wanted to be stretched is stretched, but also so is some of the metal near it. So we're going to move the piece of foam out of the way, and on the solid flat table, we're going to do what's called chasing. So that's going back near the area that we were pushing up and pushing down around it. This will give you a better definition between the raised areas and the lower areas, and it will make your image come out a lot nicer and cleaner. If you have small details, this is super, super important to go back and while you're raising some areas, make sure that you're keeping the areas around them or the lines around them pushed down and nice and flat. So you can already see there's a nice raise in this side, but we're going to try and get it even higher because this isn't going to be quite enough for what we want to do. So again, whenever you're pushing something that you want to be raised, you're going to do it upside down on a soft surface. And anytime that you want anything to flatten down or be even with the back, you're going to have it flat on the table. And you're going to work to flatten those areas out. I want to see that you've worked on all areas of your metal, so not just the area that your design is in. After you finish working on your design, you can think about adding a texture or a pattern to your background, assuming your design doesn't take up the whole square. So you're going to be marked on utilization of your metal. You're going to be marked on how well defined your image is, if you were able to get a good amount of area raised, and just how clean everything is done. So take it slow and don't rush it. If you rush the metal, it will bend, it will crease, it will just not look super, super nice. So you want to get everything as smooth and as clean as possible. You can always look at the examples and see different techniques and how different things worked. So I'll show you another shot of this one when it's done, but those are the basic techniques of metal tooling. All right, so I'm almost done here. I've gotten a good amount of raised area. Everything's looking clean around the edges. What I'm doing now is I'm filling in the background with a texture. So you could do a pattern, a texture, really anything that will kind of add a little bit more interest and clean up your sides. So for this one, I've decided to do kind of like a swirly smoke looking pattern, but it could be stripes or it could be squiggles, whatever works for you, or it could be just extending your pattern. So I'm just using the same tools and in a very specific way so that it doesn't look random. I am using swirls to fill in the background. So this may make the metal curl up a little bit. That's fine. You can flatten it out afterwards. But it's important that all of your material look like it's part of your image. So adding a little bit more dynamics, a little bit more texture, it will really help you out there. I look forward to seeing what you create.